Hello, everybody. I have quite a show for you today. I initially thought that there wasn't going to really be much, but a lot of stuff happened. There was some Israel stuff that we can cover. There's some insane Ukraine stuff. And we have Macron, who is looking like he's going to get a Lifetime Achievement Award, which I think I will, at some point, I have to come up with a name for this other than Ukraine Cinematic Universe. For like a weekly or bi-weekly or whenever I want to hold it show where I just go over more kind of current event-y stuff. I kind of like doing some show prep, like getting the articles together and stuff ahead of time and doing it that way. So... and then just getting a bunch of stuff out of the way. And then individual videos can be more like specific stuff. That was not very well explained. I mean, it can be like a review of something specific or like a specific topic or something like that. And hopefully that'll cut down a bit on the Ukraine spam. It's hard though, because just so much stuff happens. We're watching world history get created before our eyes, so... We'll get to some stuff in a minute. All right. Just give people. I am just posting most of the sources, at least, that I referenced today, will be in the description. If anyone wants to look at any of them, they should mostly be there. I'm starting to try to do that. I'm not going to give you like an annotated bibliography or anything like that because I'm too lazy, but I can at least give you the links because it's not even so. Once again, it's not that I disbelieve people per se. It's more that it's not that I disbelieve. It's that I often want to look this stuff up myself. So it's annoying if I'm watching the Duran or I'm watching something and they say there's this article and they don't reference the publication or who wrote it or whatever. I often want to look it up myself and maybe like put it into the show or something. And it's like when people do tweets and they don't have like a link in it. And part of it is also just right-wing fake news is a really big problem because people will often just post like fake Justin Trudeau quotes or fake Biden quotes or something, and there'll be no source for them. And then I find out that they just made it up. It's like these people are such losers. Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to make up stuff about Biden. You don't need to make up stuff about Justo. So... people voted for this, I think, over... I haven't checked it earlier. Earlier, UCU won over Darkside Brandon. UCU beat Darkside Brandon, so we're going to cover that. I really didn't want to sit through the Darkside Brandon speech. That's the nickname I've come up with him because it's funny, and also, like... his presidency has been reduced to him just begging for money constantly and complaining about detractors stopping him from fulfilling his genius plan, his master plan. Okay, so we'll start off with... We'll start off with maybe the craziest, one of the craziest stories I have. Maybe not the most serious, but one of the crazier stories that we have to cover. So the Ukrainian army did an audit, and I actually thought that this was like fake news. I thought that someone had like made this up, and that this was not real. That this was something like some pro-Russia guy had come up with as a troll. But no, this is from literally the Washington Post and CNN, so it's not. So, oh no, that's Pravda. But Pravda is also a Ukrainian source. Okay, so CNN. Where's the Washington Post one? Let me just pull this. Or is this it? So I'm just trying to find where... here we go. Okay. That's fine. I saved the PDF of this. Okay. So this is an article in the Washington Post. So we have Zelensky and Biden over how to draft more troops as Russian forces advance. So we'll get to the... there's a punchline here. There's a massive punchline here. Zelensky's inability to face a political consensus. So let's go down here. So the quandary over how to fill the ranks has Zelensky with perhaps the greatest challenge to his leadership since the beginning. There is no clear agreement on how many more troops Ukraine needs. Factored into Zelensky's dismissal of his top general in February, but the new commander, Syrskyi, has brought no clarity. So this is like a big-lipped alligator moment. I don't know if anyone remembers that. That was a thing the Nostalgia Critic came up when there's just like a moment in a movie that is completely out of like nowhere, that's a random game changer that changes everything, and then it's just never referenced again. And this is one of the many big-lipped alligator moments. Syrskyi has been tasked with auditing the existing armed forces to find more combat-eligible troops after Zelensky's office recently announced that of the 1 million people who have been mobilized, only about a third have fought at the front lines. But after nearly a month since being promoted, no one in the military leadership or the presidential administration has explained where those 700,000 soldiers are or what they have been doing. And this is the Washington Post. Like, what? It's just when you gotta go, like, shake your head and go, what the fuck is this? So, just 700,000 dudes just disappeared? Or it could be, now there's a phenomenon called ghost soldiers. So let's just talk about that. Or is it phantom soldiers? Okay, so what happens in very corrupt countries is the commanders will overestimate their paper strength, or if people desert or get medical discharge or get killed, they will not remove them from the roster, and they will continue to grab to collect the pay and supplies that soldier would have received. I find it funny that here they have Russia, but not Ukraine, of course. Ukraine did not use any ghost soldiers. In the terms of Afghanistan, I think it was a majority of the army. It was like 40 to 60%. Oh, no, it was 80%. Okay. Most of the 300,000 soldiers and policemen on the government's roster did not exist. So there's only 50,000. The rest were just invented by local officers and police commissioners so that they could collect their salaries. So that is my immediate thought. But just there's 700,000 guys who just disappeared. Like, how is that even possible? Like, what? Oh. So, and then it's just not referenced again. Where these 700,000 dudes went. This was also referenced in the CNN article. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay, the presidential office believes it as much as about changes inside the armed forces as it is about increasing overall numbers. According to a Zelensky aide, of the almost 1 million Ukrainians mobilized, only 200 to 300,000 have served on the front line. But they're asking for a draft increase. The former defense minister, though careful not to say he thinks too many people are avoiding frontline service, agrees that reforms within the military are needed. The bureaucratic apparatus of the armed forces is a bit inflated. A bit inflated? a bit inflated. 700,000 dudes just no one knows where they are. How is that possible? This is Americans. This is where your money has been going, to this insanity that they just like they just. How could Sersky not know that? How could like Zelensky not know that? How could Newland and Milley and all these people not know about this? Maybe they're just in the rear. Maybe they're like in garrisons or something. But once again, this is not like Breitbart or Sputnik or something. This is CNN. And they're just throwing it out there. And you know this is never going to be brought up again. I'm just going to read a comment in the chat. David George, this reminds me of my own experience in Afghanistan. We had a local commander say he could provide 1,000 men. So equipment was provided for those 1,000 and only about 80 ever showed up. He sold the rest. The equipment, we found it in a local bazaar. So, yeah, they do know they're getting a cut. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Once again, there could be some other explanation for this. But they're saying we need 500,000 more people. We need 500,000 more. But we're missing 700,000. So, like, does that mean they're going to draft, like, another 80,000 people? Then they're going to have another fake 420,000 people plus 10% for the big guy. And they're talking, some of the women are calling for fairness and mobilization. That is a great idea. That's a great idea. Ukraine doesn't have enough demographic problems as it is. Let's send the fertile childbearing women to get slaughtered against the Russians. That's a genius plan. Also, once again, like, are any of these guys actually getting training? Russian soldiers to this day, I believe, still get a full year of training before they are deployed to the front lines. That's part of the reason why their number of soldiers on the front line has been increasing so slowly, because the people who they mobilized initially and the people who volunteer go through the full training process. So it's taking them a while. But the people they're sending to the front lines, even if they're not experienced, they're trained soldiers. I mean, I haven't served in the military, but from my understanding, like, there's a lot you have to do. Like, there's the basic training, but you have to do drills over and over again. You need to go through exercises. You need to know what you have to do without even thinking about it. Like, you just instinctively are able to do things that you've had a certain amount of, like, stressful situations you've been put in, the drill sergeant's yelling at you, stuff like that, so you can hold up under pressure in combat, all kinds of stuff. All has to be reflex. Like, it's, yeah. Now, also, Zelensky claimed that Ukraine has lost 31,000 people. So, if Ukraine has mobilized, let's just pretend that what Zelensky said is real. So if Ukraine has mobilized 1 million people and they have taken 31,000 casualties, deaths, then only 3% of Ukraine's army has died since the start of the war. 3%. They didn't want to say how many people were wounded. A year is the bare minimum. 18 months would be better. Yeah, but like, I would much rather have a soldier with like a year training versus, and once again, like, I'll bring up this article, days. This is like the level of insanity that they were getting. They, according to NPR, far-right pro-Russian source NPR, some of the conscripts were getting 17 days of instruction before being thrown into combat. My understanding, the most basic of basic training in the U.S. is 10 weeks for boot camp, and then there's like, especially if you're going to be a tanker or an artilleryman or something, like you have to learn how to maintain your weapons. It's a complicated thing. And these are modern industrial armies. This isn't like a bunch of like guys out in the woods with like AKs and machetes or something. They have to deal with artillery. They have to deal with tanks. They have to deal with radio equipment. It's just... But no, there's apparently, according to the Washington Post, Sersky, and what's it called? The other one, there's just 700,000 dudes who just disappeared. They're gone. They're AFK from life. Let's just take a slight detour. I posted this on my timeline community post, but I'm going to have to put this up. We are going to introduce a new category for the RGs this year. There is so many for worst take and so many for biggest L. We're introducing the category for biggest cope. So far, we have Zelensky's claim that the spring offensive failed because it was leaked, which he leaked. But this was Anita Sarkeesian. Remember her? She had a wedding-themed birthday party in Stockholm. Let's read this out. I did not get married, but I did have a wedding-themed birthday in Stockholm this summer. It was goofy and silly and fun. We had a bachelor party, rehearsal, dinner, ceremony, and reception all in one. People dressed up in the best costumes for brides, a divorced lawyer, a drunk uncle, and a ring bearer. Massive thanks to everyone who helped me pull it off, which was a lot of people, and everyone who traveled from different countries. This is one of the biggest cope I've ever seen. Like, I want to pull the chat. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a cope is this? For the fact that she's in her 40s, nobody likes her, and she can't have children anymore. Like... And even if, like, she couldn't have children, maybe there's, like, a guy who doesn't necessarily care about having children. But if she was, like, not a horrible person, they might still marry her. Like, maybe it'll be, like, someone else in his 40s or something like that. It is just it is a galaxy tier cope. Like, I don't even know. Okay, so we're going to talk about Israel now. So let's see here. What are we going to do? Okay, so we had the lamest aid package of all time. This is the aid package, according to PBS. So 38,000 meals dropped into Gaza by U.S. military and humanitarian aid operation. How many displaced people is it in Gaza again? Like 1.8 million or something? And most people eat 2 or 3 meals a day. So they are providing food for approximately 2%. 2% of the people, if we divide that by 3 meals a day, they're providing approximately 0.6% of the food that the Palestinian people need. That's good. That's good. So we'll get to this. The Israelis just massacred a bunch of Palestinians who were trying to get flour. So this was the plan. We're going to drop the 38,000 bundles. It's 38,000. It was going to be more, but 10% for the big guy. Yeah. So they that's what they're doing at the moment. They're dropping. Okay, sorry. 2.3 million people are facing starvation. We're going to drop the 38,000 meals. Now, like everything the U.S. has done in the last 20 years, we have something that, once again, this would be funny if this was like in a comedy movie, but it's really sad, like in reality. 5 killed in Gaza by aid airdrop malfunction. I'm gonna be honest. It's kind of hard not to laugh at that. Just the like, it's dark comedy. We have like the shitty airdrop that basically feeds no one. I don't think. I think of the 38,000, like a bunch of them went into the sea or landed on roofs or stuff like that. So 5 killed in airdrop malfunction. At least 5 people have been killed and several others injured in Gaza after an aid airdrop malfunctioned Friday, delivering 38,000 meals. Biden said nowhere near enough. Let's see here. What this the aid packages falling from planes over the El Shadi camp. 5 people were killed due to the airdrop malfunction. What does that mean? Oh, okay. Okay. So the parachute didn't deploy, and the air package just like flattened 5 people, including 2 children. Like, it's sad, man. It's sad. It's. So, what else has happened? Why are they airdropping these? Why are they airdropping these meals? We had this. Palestinians say Israeli troops fired at people seeking food. Israel says scene was deadly stampede. Once again, to kind of reiterate my position on this whole thing, I'm not a particular fan of either side. I just want Israel to lose more. Because the Palestinians don't impact my daily life at all. Israel does a lot impact my daily life. Also, honestly, on average, the pro-Palestinian people are probably worse than the pro-Israeli people. They are really insufferable. Anyways, Israeli troops fired on a crowd of Palestinians racing to pull food off an aid convoy in Gaza City on Thursday, witnesses said. More than 100 people were killed in the chaos, bringing the death toll since the start of the Israel-Hamas war to more than 30,000, according to health officials. Once again, the last count I saw for the Russo-Ukraine war was like 10 to 12,000 civilians. So the Israelis have killed way more civilians. They're way more indiscriminate with their bombing than the Russians are. Israel said many of the dead were trampled in the chaotic stampede for the food aid, and that its troops only fired when they felt endangered by the crowd. Let me see if I can find that South Park clip. Okay, here we go. I think this is what happened.
People in Africa. What do you mean? You see, boys? Hey, it wasn't coming right for us. It was just sitting there.
There's a Rocky Mountain black bear. One of the few remaining of its kind. Isn't it beautiful?
By God, it's coming right for us. Hey, it wasn't coming right for us. It was just sitting there.
Shh, not so loud. Now there's just a technicality.
What do you mean?
You see, boys, the Democrats have passed a lot of laws trying to stop us from hunting.
Democrats piss me off.
They say we can't shoot certain animals anymore unless they're posing an immediate threat. Therefore, before we shoot something, we have to say, it's coming right for us.
Wow, you're smart, Uncle Jimbo.
There we go. Well, that's probably what happened. Israel said many of the dead were trampled in a chaotic stampede from the food aid, and they felt threatened. The violence was quickly condemned by Arab countries, and U.S. President Joe Biden expressed concern it would add to the difficulty of negotiating a ceasefire. No shit. So let me just be real here for a second. Is there a chance that there was a chaotic stampede of Palestinians running at the food truck? Yeah, that might have happened. Is there a chance that they would have attacked the Israeli soldiers had they been able to reach them? Yeah, probably. But once again, it's like, okay, so you have like starving people, you present them with food, and then when they like this happened. So like, could there have been and here's the other thing. Israel has exhausted every last benefit of the doubt that we've provided them. Does anyone remember, once again, El Shifa Hospital, where Netanyahu had the like underground James Bond lair, and they found like 2 AKs that were obviously brought in the like conspicuous boxes? Like, there's been so many cases in this war where they just make stuff up that's patently false. It's kind of funny because, like, at the start of this, like, I was more, like, skeptical of Hamas, and I was like, maybe Hamas is, like, a death cult or something like that. But, like, the Israeli propaganda is just so over the top and just so insane. They're not sending their best propagandists. Like, hire your cousin Solomon from Hollywood. Get him to come over and film some stuff. They're not sending their best. They're not sending their best. So, and this leads us to okay, we have a clown world thing for a moment. Let's see here. Like, it's not even good propaganda. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like when Zelensky does the 31,000 Ukrainians have died thing. It's so obviously bullshit. Like, either just don't say how many people have died, or say... either just don't say how many people have died, or say it's been, like, hard on us, or at least come up with, like, a convincing lie. Like, a lie that might be true. But no, Russia's lost. I think they said it was 6 times as many. I think they said that 100, I think 160,000 Russians have died to 15,000 Ukrainians, which is physically impossible. That is just not... doesn't make any sense. Okay. So, the current plan, I think, that Israel has is the final solution to the Palestinian question. So, they have taken pretty much all of northern Gaza and driven the population out of here down to the south. The next target is Rafah, which is right on the border with Egypt. Now, you might be asking yourself, if they attack Rafah, where are they going to go? And the answer is Egypt. And I think that's probably what the goal is. The goal is to basically just ethnically cleanse them from the northern part of Gaza, and then get everyone down to Rafah, and then just force them over the Egyptian border. I think that that's the plan. People have told Netanyahu not to do it, but he's going to do it. So, at the same time, though, and I'm going to say something that'll probably piss a lot of people off. Well, I probably won't. It would almost be worse in a sense if Israel stopped now, because it would mean nothing would change in the long term. They would just have killed a bunch of people. They would have reduced the Palestinians to even more starving misery. It kind of needs to end one way or another. Like, if Israel does this and they remove the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, at least this gets resolved. Although probably what's going to happen is the Arabs will do what they always do, and Egypt will keep them in refugee camps in Sinai for the next 40 years, and use it to get money. But honestly, I don't know really what the solution is to this crisis, to the ongoing thing, other than one side wiping the other out. As I've said many times, if you look at the West Bank, it's not viable to have a Palestinian state. and the Israelis are not going to withdraw from the territory that they occupied there. So, like, if you look at what the West Bank looks like, it's just not, you can't build a Palestinian state out of that. It's just, you can't. So, I don't know. What is the solution? No, I mean, the Israelis will just, it's just, to me, I almost, as bad as it would be, and it is ethnic cleansing and it is genocide, it would at least resolve this issue. It would be the final solution to the Palestinian question. And I almost feel it would be better in some way for the Palestinians to just get expelled and to try to start a new life in another country than to just be held in a geopolitical limbo indefinitely. Maybe that's a bad thing to say, but I honestly don't know what else to do. Israel's never going to withdraw from the West Bank. Israel's is getting more extreme by the year as the ultra-Orthodox continue to gain power. The situation is going to get worse and worse. So that I don't know. I know that's dark. I know, like, I'm not really justifying it. I'm just trying to be real here. Unless the Israelis just permanently expel everybody, this is going to continue on indefinitely. So that's the question. I mean, if it was possible to get Israel to withdraw from the West Bank, then yeah. But to be slightly fair to Israel, like, I get why they don't want the West Bank to be, because then they just, like, it's so narrow. It just gives them a total lack of strategic depth. But that's it. Okay, so let's see here. There was one other one we were going to cover. Okay, we had this was the clown world. This is like up there for the most clown world thing I've ever seen. Let's see here. So this is amazing. Okay, so the question is Israel needs, this is them asking, like, why can't you can't force Israel to withdraw. Why are they're not listening? Were they ever going to do, okay. Okay, so this is what he said in response to why the U.S. can't force it. There is a mistaken belief that the United States is able to dictate to other countries' sovereign decisions. Israel makes its sovereign decisions. We make clear where we disagree with them. And there have been times where we express our disagreements privately. There are times we express them publicly. And of course, you've seen individuals in Israel take actions where we have felt the need to hold them accountable. So with respect to the extremist violence, Israel's sovereign, guys. The U.S., we can't intervene in the affairs of other sovereign countries. It's the fact that he could say that with a straight face. I mean, like, I don't even really care that it's not necessarily that interviewing intervening in other countries' affairs. That's not necessarily even a bad thing. Like, I liked it when the Americans were helping various governments kill communists. I thought that was pretty cool. But, like, no, this is just a lie, and it's a bullshit lie. I mean, Israel is sovereign over the United States in the sense that it controls the U.S., but here he said, I mean, of course, other countries are all sovereign, but we don't give every country $4 billion a year, at least in aid and so on. So we should have some leverage, especially when it comes to settlements that you're committing, at least verbally, to have a Palestinian state on. So once again, we provide security assistance to Israel because we support Israel's legitimate right to ensure that the attacks of October 7th never happen again, to ensure Israel's legitimate right to protect itself from a terrorist organization, Hezbollah. Did they misspell that? Is that how you spell Hezbollah? I thought Hezbollah was spelled differently. No, it's spelled with a... Isn't it spelled with a E? Is that just a typo? I don't know. Legitimate right. So, if the U.S. doesn't give Israel $4 billion, they'll get killed by Palestinians. These are the only two scenarios that are possible. It's either we give them the $4 billion or they all get killed. Okay. That doesn't change our fundamental agreement. So there is, yep, there's nothing. Sorry, just on the sovereignty issue. Yeah, so that was the, okay. We do not treat Taiwan as a sovereign state. Well, you do. I mean, I don't really even mind that, but it's just such bull. It's just so, it's so G-slur. We don't meddle in the affairs of sovereign countries. Israel's the only country that applies to. Literally no other country does that apply to. Is there any other country that, like, U.S. does not meddle in the internal affairs of? So, yeah. Once again, and I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right what Israel's doing. I'm just saying, like, I realistically don't know what other resolution is possible other than one side just purging the other. Let's see here. No, just, okay, if you want to, Joseph, if you want to say in the chat what you realistically think can be done to get the Israelis to withdraw from the West Bank, I'm all ears for it, but I just don't think that they can. And I strategically understand why they say they can't. Because it's too strategically difficult, would be the case. So I don't know. It's just a mess. It's just a mess, and I don't really know where we're going with it. Let's see here. Okay, so that mostly covers that. We have... This is one of the most childish, bizarre things I think I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Russian ambassadors. Well, dude, I like, you're preaching to the converted. You're preaching to the converted, Joseph. I don't like Israel. Like, I think you're not alone here, dude. I don't think most, like, probably 90% of the people here don't like Israel. The reason I don't like well, there's a couple of reasons, but I don't want to get banned off of YouTube, so. Foreign Minister Lavrov. So this is one of the most childish things I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay, guys, like just chill in the chat. Okay, so this I think is very appropriate given the last video. The last article. So the last article was about how America can't meddle in the sovereign affairs of other countries. So Russia. So Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, asked all of the Western ambassadors to come to a conference because he wanted to tell them that he wanted to basically warn them, don't interfere in Russia's presidential election. And they all refused to show up. They just refused to show up. Let me see if I can find this. Okay, so this is from... Yeah, so the EU they just all refused to meet him. So Sergei Lavrov called the ambassadors to Russia. And he said he wanted to talk to him, and they refused. Like, I've never heard... Have any of you ever heard of that before? The ambassador refusing to meet with the government of the country they're in? I mean, isn't that the entire point of having an ambassador? Like, people in the chat or people with... Like, have you ever heard of something like this before? They refused to go. They wouldn't go and they wouldn't talk to him. They wouldn't talk to the foreign minister. It's of the Russian Federation. So some people are saying that they should just kick out the ambassadors because they're obviously not doing their job. Like what even is this? What's the point? So Lavrov was basically going to say, like, don't interfere in the Russian election. We refuse to, like, that's, to my understanding, that's all he was going to say. He was going to say, look, we're having a presidential election. You complain constantly about Russian bots. We don't want you to intervene in it. We don't want you to get involved in it. And then they just said, no, we aren't gonna meet the foreign minister. Like, once again, Lavrov is one of the most respected, experienced, skilled diplomats in the world, from my understanding. He's widely respected throughout a lot of the world. This isn't like just some random, like, member of the Duma. This is the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, and the ambassadors won't talk to him. Like, what world are we in? Why do they even have ambassadors there? So I don't think Russia is going to expel. And once again, this is not a Russia-Ukraine thing. And I want to make that this important. Regardless of what side of this are on, even if you think that Putin is the Antichrist, even if you think he's Putler or whatever, it is so rude and just in such bad taste. And just, it's just really like, it's just so childish to refuse to meet with representatives of the government. You're like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, at least. But like, once again, I don't care if this was the Soviet Union. I don't care if this was Maoist China. I think Mao was basically the Antichrist. If Mao had said to the U.S. ambassador, I want to talk to you, and the U.S. ambassador said, no, I'm not going to talk to you, then that's not acceptable. That's just not. There's like a certain code of rules that govern these kind of things, and you just can't do that. You can't behave in that manner. It's disrespectful to the entire profession. So I just, it's awful. Okay, so we covered that. And we're going to move on to part of where this comes from. We're going to talk about the Batphone the Batphone phone call from Germany, from Germany to Singapore. So I'm just going to go through this. I posted links to the articles. Okay, so what wound up happening? Now there's so many like things about this story that are bizarre and don't make any sense. And to me, like the whole thing involving the actual discussion is like the least interesting part of it. Okay. So, I'm just gonna summarize this. So, Germany has consistently said, at least Olaf Scholz, the RG Award winner for biggest F slur of last year, has said we are not going to be sending Taurus missiles, which is a long-range cruise missile, to my understanding, to Ukraine, which would enable them to hit deeper inside of Russia. That is what they said. That was what Scholz has continued to say. Now, a German general was in Singapore for an international air show. Now, Alexander Mercouris of the Duran talked about this, and he said that it's very common for military officers to use air shows as a place to try to make deals behind the scenes and stuff, in that they're invariably, there's just like intelligence services from everywhere there, because you have a whole bunch of technology, you have a whole bunch of officers and stuff like that. It's the last place that you should be wanting to do stuff. So this one German general called the other one on like Skype, basically. Like, it was an unsecure line. He called like the guy back in Germany and had this conversation about like giving Ukraine the Taurus missiles. And it's just, what planet are we on? Like, this is military discipline. Like, apparently it's an unsecure line, so it might have been Skype or like Discord or something or like that. Like what is this? Why are they having a Skype call? Also, Singapore is a neutral, to my understanding, is a neutral country. They have good relations with China, to my understanding, and good relations with the U.S. That's maybe not the best place to have it. It's in East Asia, sort of. I guess you could say it's East Asia or Southeast Asia. I'd imagine there's a lot of Chinese sympathizers in Singapore, as its majority ethnically Chinese, and they thought it was a good idea to do that. Well, I know Singapore's buying U.S. equipment, but I don't think that they're like the same as some country. I think they're okay. They're U.S. There's some okay. They're sort of U.S. I don't think the relations with China are that bad. I could be wrong though, but the point is, you're in like the other side of the world, calling someone on an unsecure line to discuss this, and there's been no denial. So the cope that has come up with the German Minister of Defense Boris Pistorius is that this is Russian disinformation because this got released. It's not disinformation because the call is fake or because it's not like accurate or it's not real. It's disinformation because it was released at all. So there's a lot of speculation about where this came from. Was this someone in the Singapore's government? Was this Chinese? Was this the Russians? Was this someone in the German government? It was the French involved with this, stuff like that. And that, like, so I don't know. Apparently it was given to Russia Today, and Russia Today published on their website, and Der Spiegel and a bunch of German press just immediately said, yeah, this was legitimate. So the plan is the plan was the 24-hour op that they were coming up with is they were going to give Ukraine the Taurus missiles, and they were going to use the Taurus missiles to blow up the Kerch Bridge, which is the bridge that connects mainland Russia to Crimea. Now, keep in mind the Kerch Bridge, I think, was only completed in 2018. I think it was 2018 that the Kerch Bridge opened. Yeah, 2018. Okay, yeah, 2018 is when it finished. Okay, so I just wanted to have that for context. So the idea, and this is like an obsession, it's kind of become kind of like Captain Ahab and the whale. This idea that if they just blow up the Kerch Bridge, somehow this is all going to like defeat the Putin. That like the Putin's going to get destroyed, Putler's going to get blown out, Ukraine's going to win this war if they could only blow up the Kerch Bridge. Because that would be like, I don't know, a scene in some sort of movie or something where they blow up the bridge at the end and then it's like the big victory. Now, I say 2018 because Crimea was annexed by Russia in 2014. So the question is, what did they do for the 4 years between 2014 and 2018? The answer is they used ships and planes, and that seemed to have worked. Now, would it suck if the Kerch Bridge got destroyed? Yeah, it would suck. But, I mean, they're currently building, now that Kherson and Zaporozhye have been annexed, they're building rail links through there. So I don't get it. But no, they think if they do this. So the plan was, so a couple of weeks ago, Olaf Scholz revealed that a lot of the higher end weapons in Ukraine, particularly the Storm Shadows, and I forget what the French missiles were being operated by British and French technicians. That the Ukrainians didn't know how to use this stuff. So they had you have British and French specialists in Ukraine who are aiming and assumably firing these missiles at Russian targets. And then completely lost. The Americans are providing the targeting data through spy planes and satellites and stuff like that. And this is like, so this is where we're at. And yeah. Sorry, I was just brain fart there. So the German generals were basically saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to send them like 200. We're going to send them a bunch of Taurus missiles. Then German soldiers are going to program them and sight them. And then the German soldiers are going to fire the cruise missiles at the Kerch Bridge and blow it up. And this got leaked and it looked really bad. And to me, like, I don't even really see what's so surprising about this. We've known that there's NATO soldiers in Ukraine for years now. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you watch the video I did last week about the article in the New York Times, which was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Because they literally talk about how, like, the CIA had dozens of, like, James Bond bases along the border with Russia. And they basically admit that they're, like, they created a deep state in Ukraine to turn it into, like, a battering ram against Russia. And this is the New York Times. This isn't me. This isn't the Putin. This isn't Russia Today. This was the NYT. So to me, the more interesting thing about this is that Pistorius went over Scholz's head Pistorius just was probably doing this behind his boss's back. So this makes him look really bad. Schultz look even worse. It makes Pistorius look like the snake that he is. To me, though, the single biggest thing is like these dudes having this conversation about Skype. Over Skype. Like, what is that? I don't know. So that was that plan. That was the genius plan that they came up with. Okay. All right. So what's next on the list? Okay. Let's see. We'll get to Macron in a minute, but let's do a fun side story. So I hadn't actually heard of this. Were any of you aware that Ukraine had sent its special forces to take part in the Sudanese civil war? Like, I hadn't even heard of this before. Apparently, like, the head of like the head of the Sudanese military government asked Zelensky, like Batphone Zelensky, to send special forces to Sudan to fight the Rapid Support Forces militia. So this is Wall Street Journal. This is The Guardian. So, Ukrainian special forces in Sudan fighting against Russian mercenaries. Ukrainian special forces are reportedly operating in Sudan in support of the country's army against Russian Wagner mercenaries along with rapid support forces. Although it's weird because the rapid support, I thought that I don't even know which side is which in the Sudanese civil war, because the Sudanese military regime has good relations with Russia. And the Sudanese military government has recently said, yeah, we're fine with Russia building a naval base. So the Kiev Post released a short film, which it says came from sources within Ukrainian military intelligence. 100% that's legitimate. Responsible for covert operations showing a captured Russian prisoner being interrogated alongside 2 Russian men. The Russian soldier said that he was from the PMC Wagner and came into Sudan from Central African Republic, where the Russian group are based to overthrow the local government with a force of about 100. The location of this could not be independently verified. So, I mean, I guess they're learning from the FBI. They're taking it to the next level. Like, the FBI just creates fake groups within America. They just create these fake organizations. But they're doing it in other countries. They're like, this is the shadiest shit I've ever heard. Maybe Wagner is working with these guys, but like this sounds so sussy. Like that this was made up. Previous videos have circulated showing Ukrainian-style kamikaze drone strikes against rapid support forces. Let's see here. That the operations were conducted by special forces from Kiev and a Palestinian sniper operating in Sudan who has been described as Ukrainian on social media. We discussed our common security challenges, namely the activities of illegal armed groups financed by Russia. Yeah, so, like, I mean, is it, like, so basically, to my understanding, what happened was after Prigozhin pulled his nonsense, a large segment of Wagner joined the Russian army, the normal Russian army inside contract soldiers. I think that there's a special division within the Russian military. I think they're called like the Veterans Unit or something. Unit. Oh, I'm trying to remember what it was called. So Wagner got broken up. Half of them, I think, got sent to Africa to deal with, to do stuff there. Another part of them became this specialist elite brigade within the Russian army that specializes in urban assaults. I can't remember what it's called, but they have been in Africa and they have been, I think, involved in stuff. Once again, though, it's very much just kind of a boogeyman who they can use to just blame everything on. It's just that Wagner's behind it. So, let's see here. So that is the claim at any rate. Now, the 4D chess so the speculation for why is you don't think Prigozhin, who knows with Prigozhin? If Prigozhin came back and like he had faked his death and he was like in his bond layer the whole time, I would not be surprised. So the theory behind this is Sudan has large numbers of artillery shells. So the thinking is that Ukraine is sucking up to Sudan in exchange for being allowed to buy these artillery shells. Because the Czech Republic has talked about how they're going to get a bunch of money together and they're going to go to the international arms market and they're going to buy the 800,000 shells. Okay. The ammunition initiative. We're gonna buy the 800,000 shells on the international arms market. There's nothing that could go wrong with buying massive numbers of weapons at an inflated price from the shadiest people on the planet. I mean, is there anyone shadier than the international arms market? I guess like human traffickers, although they're probably the same people who are doing both. So that is the goal. Is that they want to buy the shells from Sudan. So they're sending the special forces to do it. No, I mean they aren't going to get the 800. It's just retarded. That's part of why they want to seize the 300 billion Russian dollars so they can use it to buy this stuff. But like, what are the odds that a lot of this money is going to go to like shady terrorist groups or international criminals or just like stuff like that? The other major source that they're going to try to get them from is Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia has a massive reserve left over from the Gulf War that America didn't bother to take with it. Now, how reliable these shells are, how good they are, who knows? But is flooding is flooding like the Saudi and Sudanese arms market with money with very little over? Is that a good idea? Is that not gonna is that gonna not have any negative consequences for the it's baffling to me how they think this is a good idea. Like, I get that they need shells from somewhere, but you're gonna go to fucking Sudan and just start paying people money? Like, you don't know who these people are. You don't know who's operating in Sudan. I mean, you just admitted that Wagner's operating in Sudan. So you're just going to give like billions of dollars to these fucking random dirtbags. So that is the plan. That is the genius plan that they've come up with, which, and once again, I'm sorry if I keep saying this, but this isn't even like a Russia or Ukraine thing. It's just a bad idea to give like hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to shady dudes like on the international arms market. flooding an Islamic African nation with guns, mercenaries, and money, looking to buy weapons. Yeah, it's a good call. So, all right. Now we have Macron, little Napoleon himself. So he got completely and utterly blown out last week. Yeah, they said the first 300,000 have already been purchased. I don't know if they said where the shells were from. I'm sure it wasn't from anyone sussy. So Macron, a.k.a. Little Napoleon, he said, like, nothing, like, we have to consider deploying soldiers to Ukraine in order to stop the Russians. And basically everyone immediately blew him out. Everybody except for the Czech president said this is a terrible idea. We're not sending soldiers to Ukraine. This is insane. And Macron got publicly humiliated by this. So he's going to come out now, and he's doubling down. He's doubling down. He's tripling down. Emmanuel Macron said that the West may have to step in to save Ukraine if Russia makes a breakthrough. The French president produced maps to show opposition leaders invited to the palace points of potential Russian breakthrough towards Odessa or Kiev. He told them there should be no more red lines on his country's involvement in the conflict. Does that include atomics? I mean, like, France has nuclear weapons, right? I mean, I know he's not saying that, but, like, words matter. Words matter. Like, is this really a good idea? No more red lines. There's none. Speaking at the 2.5 hour exploit the conflict or miss a gain. Lord Cameron said Europe must rein in the wars in Ukraine and Gaza before the next U.S. president is sworn in. So no limit approach. Here we go. Okay. On Thursday, some party leaders said Mr. Macron advocated a no limits approach to countering the Russian president's part of his theory of strategic ambivalence to get Russia guessing. So everybody, including the other than Macron's camp, I think even like the Republicans said this was a really bad idea. So to my understand, so the 4D chess plan, as I understand it, is France is going to send lightly armed soldiers in front of the Russian path to Odessa or Kiev, and they're going to stand in the Russians' way, and they're going to shoot at the Russians, and if the Russians shoot them back, we're gonna invoke Article 5, and we're gonna start World War III. That is the G-Slurop. That is Macron's 4D chess plan now. Is we're just gonna send French troops to Ukraine, try to get them killed, so we can start World War III. Isn't that the definition of a human shield? Like, what? That is the plan. Now, part of this is what happened is Putin killed a whole bunch of French mercenaries. So Moscow claimed to have killed 60 foreign fighters operating on French payroll in Kharkov. Now, if I recall what wound up happening here, let me see if I can find this. Prevent citizens from joining. Okay, this is from Sputnik, which I know is Russian propaganda, but I'm just trying to get the quote so I can look this up. Okay, here we go. I think this is it. I'm just trying to find it because okay, basically the French said that no French citizens were fighting with any armies global first use of okay, let me just find this. Let's see here. Okay, France can't stop citizens from fighting in Ukraine. I'm just trying to find this. It's difficult because they said this a couple days ago. Okay. Okay, so it's kind of been wrapped up, but what wound up happening is the French Foreign Ministry said that no French soldiers were operating anywhere outside of France. Then after that, they said we can't prevent French citizens from fighting in other countries. Oh, it's Article 6. Sorry, I can't remember if it's Article 6 or Article 5. So, yeah. I do wonder if they would hold to that same position if French citizens went and fought for Russia. It's an interesting question. So that is Macron, that is little Napoleon's plan to start World War III. Because he feels that like he has not been treated well, that people don't take him seriously, that people don't respect him, that people make fun of him, lead the intervention of if they attack in a war. No restrictions and no red lines. We got to go to war. Fico said no, this is a bad idea. So Fico was like, Fico was talking to Russia, so the Czech Republic has like suspended relations with Slovakia over it because they can't talk to Russia. I think Macron is like 6'1". Oh, yeah. Oh no. Oh, he's shorter than I thought he was. Okay. I think Macron's a pretty good-looking guy, honestly. I mean, he is the ultimate soy boy, but I don't think he's a bad-looking man. Which, once again, raises questions about why he settled for his, like, 20-year-older teacher and he's the stepfather. I don't know. Once again, notice that none of these people are saying that anyone can talk to Russia. That's not on the cards. That's not an explanation. That's not something we can talk about. We can't talk to Russia. We can't try to come to an agreement. That is off the table. That is a crazy idea. We have to send French soldiers to Ukraine to get attacked. Let me see if I can find that picture of Zelensky at the NATO summit. It was like the worst optics I've ever seen. It was like him standing off in a corner, looking sad while there was all the other NATO leaders. I forget what it was, what Zelensky called him. Zelensky just had all these insults for him. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. There we go. I think that's it. Yeah, that was off in a corner. Okay. Also, Zelensky's about to leave Ukraine again because why would he want to be there? Okay, so that was Macron. I have a couple stories left. So, Victoria Newland is now gone. She resigned recently. And she is apparently retiring. It took everybody by surprise. Victoria Newland is, of course, the progenitor of Project Ukraine. She was there handing out cookies or sandwiches or whatever in Maidan Square when the 2014 revolution happened. But she is like, once again, we live in clown world. She is being replaced by, let's see here, what's his name? John Bass, a former ambassador to Afghanistan who oversaw the U.S. withdrawal from the country. Whoa. Like, you can't make this up. Like, that's the dude we want. That's the dude we want to maintain, like, our failing client state. Is to get the dude who fucked up Afghanistan. Like, that does not inspire confidence. If I was, like, in Ukraine, I would be like, get the fuck out. This is not a good idea. Like, I was behind the Afghanistan nonsense. We're gonna get him to run the similar. Look at that face. Don't you trust that face? He was. That's the plan. That's the dude who they're bringing out. Yeah, I have kind of a hyena laugh. I get that from my father. That's the goal. We're going to get the dude who fucked up Afghanistan and was a total embarrassment. We're going to put him in charge of Ukraine, which is in kind of a similar situation that Afghanistan was in when he was in charge of it. So, like, that does not inspire confidence. If you're sending the Z team to Project Ukraine. I don't know. Why is this guy even still employed by the State Department? So I don't know. That is that does not inspire confidence. That does not. Yeah, that's not a good sign. What else do we have here? I think we have one or two other stories. Covered Israel. We had this one, which was interesting. Just briefly, the Greek PM was in Odessa. Apparently, while he was there, Russia launched an attack on a drone production facility in Odessa while the Greek prime minister was there. Now, I don't really... this whole thing is very suspect. So my understanding of how these things work, because you constantly have Western leaders going to Ukraine, is that they have some sort of agreement where they tell the Russians, the person's going to be here then, or Russia. Let's see. U.S. Security Coordinator for Israel. Interesting. Yeah. Anyways, so normally, one way or another, Russia will let them know, or they will let Russia know, and Russia will avoid because they don't want to kill Western officials. So I don't know what happened here. I don't know if like they told them and then the Greeks went there, so it could be like Hillary Clinton dodging snipers. Let me see, is that on YouTube?
Hillary Clinton has long been touting her.
It was supposed to be an example of Hillary Clinton's battle-tested experience.
I remember landing under sniper fire.
In the speech last week, Senator Clinton was referring to her visit to Tuzla, Bosnia in 1996 as First Lady.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something like that. But it's just weird. I don't know what the thinking. Oh no, it's. I was gonna say it's too bad that I don't want to get removed from YouTube, so I'm not gonna say what I should have said. Now, Alex Christoforou made a good point that probably the safest place to be in Ukraine is next to Zelensky, because the Russians don't want to kill Zelensky because of how inept he is. So that's probably a good place to be. Now, there is a claim, and Konstantin brings this up, that what's his name? Brushinov? Whoever the guy who thinks he's Blofeld from the Ukrainian intelligence head who thinks he's Blofeld. What's his name? Budanov. That's his name, Budanov. That Budanov had like this 24-hour plan. Budanov just looks like such an edgelord, doesn't he? I don't know. I think he thinks that he's a James Bond villain. Look at that. If that's not like a Blofeld wannabe, I don't know. But no, his plan was to lure Macron to, what is that? Is that like from Is that from Silverwing? Anyone remember Silverwing or Sunwing or Brightwing or stuff like that? Sorry, just completely side note. But he was going to get Macron to go to Kiev, and then he was going to put off a bomb to kill Macron and pretend that Russia did it. So I don't know if that's the case. That could just be something Russia made up. But Budanov is insane, so it very well might be the case. He has a known history of doing stuff like that. He killed Alexander Dugin's daughter, for instance. So that was a plan. I don't know if that's real or not. The fact, though, that is like possible, that there's enough of a chance of that being real to even consider it is not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Okay, so we covered the ambassador, we covered Israel, we covered Macron, World War III, Ukraine and Sudan. Yeah, I'm going to try, if I do these shows in the future, unless it's something very like urgent, I'm going to try to actually do show prep, because this, I think, is a lot smoother than what I do some of the time. I think we're able to we're able to get through a lot of this easier. I'm just trying to find something. Okay, Ukraine might be willing out of men. Press gangs roam the streets and send those who can't pay bribes to the killing fields. After 70,000 Ukrainians died defending their freedom, it could happen here too. Yeah. Also, I'm just, I actually got more than 4 hours of sleep last night, so. Oh yeah, good news. Also, I'm bipolar, so I think I'm in a more manic phase at the moment, so I'm a bit more high energy than I sometimes am. But good news, I had a sleep test done. It turns out, to the surprise of no one, I have severe sleep apnea. So hopefully next week I'm gonna get a CPAP machine, and that'll be good. I don't know what like a normal amount is. They said like my blood oxygen levels were going down to like 70% when I did the test. So hopefully that'll let me sleep more than like 4 hours a night, which is about what I get at the moment. And that's like 4 low quality hours. So I'm looking forward to that, to dealing with that. So that'll be good. Now that I'm done my master's, I'm trying to get a bit healthier. So lost 10 pounds since the start of Lent. Just going to keep going with it. So I want to lose at least another 20. Maybe 40. We'll see. Let's see here. Yeah, so they basically are just using press gangs at the moment in the United Kingdom. So, yeah. Russia has suffered 315,000 versus 600,000 versus 70,000, 300,000. So once again, we have this whole idea that it's like 6 times. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'll start like lifting or anything like that, but I just want to lose some weight to start off with. Fortunately, I live in a city, and I'm able to walk most places. Like, I have my driver's license and everything. I can drive, but cars are expensive, and I can either walk or take public transit most places. That really helps out with when I'm trying to diet, because I get quite a bit of exercise that way. Honestly, I think that's one of the main reasons. Aside from just food quality, I think European food is probably a lot healthier. There's less kind of crap in it and stuff like that. But Europeans have to walk a lot of places, whereas Americans and Canadians kind of view it as like a mark of disservice. A disservice. Oh no, they think it's shameful to walk places. Like, I remember when Serp said that he lived 15 minutes away from his work, and so some days he would just walk there because he's just like, why bother getting my car out? I'll just get a little bit of exercise. And they just made him I live in, I think, the coldest large city in Canada. It's like -20 to negative. It's like -10 to -20 here. No, it's sorry. It's just, but no, it's so the people at his work would make fun of him and like look down their noses at him for walking to work, because like taking public transit or walking, is viewed as like something shameful, and that's partially why you have urban sprawl and stuff like that, and why people in rural, I think people in rural areas are generally fatter than people in urban areas. I could be wrong. Or suburbs, because they drive everywhere. So I personally, if I can walk somewhere, I prefer to do that. It's really the only form of exercise I really enjoy. So I like to do that. Yeah, also the Japanese diet is different. I think one of the, sorry, we're basically done. I'm just talking to the chat for a minute. That's all the stories I had prepared. Since I started dieting, something I've noticed is reducing carbs in favor of having a bit more fat and more protein in my diet has helped a lot. Me eat less. I think that like this whole idea that like fat makes you fat is a really bad idea. Because obviously there's like hydrogenated bullshit and stuff like that, but is really like hydrogenated vegetable oil the same thing as olive oil? Like, are those both equally bad for you? Is it really better to like be eating more sugar and stuff like that rather than olive oil or something like that, or peanut oil or something? That seems to be like the general approach. So what I've started to do, I started to do that a while. So back in the day, I normally bring my lunch to work just because oh, see you later, TXR. I used to eat sandwiches but I just kind of got bored with that. So what I do now is every other week I go and we'll make a massive pot of curry or sweet and sour, some sort of stir fry, mix it with rice, and then I save that in like Tupperware containers, and then that's my lunch. So that's pretty cool. A joke I came up with a couple years ago is that no, it's good because I put a bunch of like beans in it and vegetables and meat and stuff like that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The joke I had was vegetable oils are left-wing, animal fat is right-winged, and olive oil is centrist. I like beans a lot, so like I've started eating a lot of lentils, and black beans are good as well, and stuff like that. I just find it's a good way to add extra protein and fiber to your diet. It's something that's actually tasty. So, but it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a process, but I have to stop making excuses, and I have to stop just putting it off. So we will deal with that. But anyways, thank you everybody for showing up. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you found that interesting and exciting. Have a good weekend, everybody, and I'll talk to you again real soon.